Don't ever sacrifice your value, your worth, and what you wanted to get because you just wanted to have a conclusion be met. Because the conclusion could be walking out the door, and that could be, in some cases, a successful negotiation if you've had to give up everything. What was the point? So at a certain point, there has to be that line that you will not cross.
There was a woman who was a salesperson, and she would, I would say, made a point of being a little extra fashionable. Maybe the skirt was a little shorter, the heels were a little higher, hair was all, makeup. And I made a point of scheduling an appointment with her on a regular basis. The fact of the matter is, she was using something that really wasn't working for what she needed to get done, which was make that sale. It still is a double standard, and as I said, it's a man's world, and I think it's always something that you have to be cognizant of when you're going in the door. How do I look? How am I going to be perceived in this situation?
When it comes to negotiating, when it comes to deal making, which is kind of, my world is more deal making than negotiating. These women, there's one in particular that I worked with at the Redskins that is phenomenal. She writes more sponsorship business for the Redskins than any man who has ever worked there. And she rocks her Louboutin shoes, and she always looks on point. I mean, always on point. But if you underestimate her for 2 seconds, she is an absolute shark. She smells blood in the water, and she will have you eating out of her hands. So I think the point to make, kind of to Neville's point, is it sounded like the woman that he referenced had one of those two things. She looked the part, right? But it was maybe for her, and I don't know her, but maybe it was kind of a facade where she felt she was trying to accentuate one thing so that she didn't have to deliver on that second thing. But what I will tell you is I would never tell any woman out there to kind of, bottle or repress her sexuality, what makes her a woman, because I truly believe that if harnessed in the right way, it's one of the most powerful tools in the boardroom that could ever be brought to bear.
Men ask women out on dates, generally, stereotypically, and that's when this starts. And stereotypically, right, men propose to women. And men ask the women to marry them. So she said there's a culture of asking this, like negotiating, you're like, I want to get better at it. Well, guess what? You're like 10, 15 years behind. It's just, the old joke they tell in New York, how do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Practice.
Okay, so you haven't had this practice that we had.
It was preparation. It was knowing the person across the table inside and out, knowing what you bring to the table, knowing what's going to motivate the person on the other side, knowing where you're willing to give and know where you're willing not to give. Because that's the one thing is, it's not weak to give in a negotiation. But never, ever, 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 ever give unless you're trying to accomplish something else.